You've missed this dancing. Easy peasy. Trust the process. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, show in which we react to latest Arsenal news and, of course, matches. And that is exactly what we're going to do here as Arsenal come off the back of a 3-0 thumping away at Fulham, in which they take all 3 points for the first game this season. 3 goals, 3 points, and some magical performances in there to break down and get your thoughts in our live chat, getting you involved as much as possible this season as we break into the first Raw reactions of the whole season. And I'm absolutely buzzing to be starting off with an amazing victory today. So let's get your comments immediately. Manoush says Gabriel is a beast. Joseph says, boring first half, better second half. I don't think you can say a first half was boring. I think the first half was full of flair. Iron Cub says, great game. Tekos Man says, we are top of the league. I say, we are top of the league. Carl Helberg says, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I may have booked a Champions 2021 tattoo, but let's keep our feet on the ground, yes? Lovely stuff, mate. Matt Gray says, great game. Laka scored his annual away goal. Happy days. Yeah, I mean, a bit worrying. He's used them all up in the first game. That's not so great, is it? Avon says, too right, Carl. We are winning the lead. John G says, what was that fight about between Nketiah and Ceballos about? I don't care, to be honest. It was absolutely great to see both of them come on at the end, playing at the top of the game. Ceballos came on and was an absolute beast. Chris P, thank you for the donation, mate. El Neni, the new Pirlo. He was unreal. I said I was apprehensive is probably the right word to use before we kicked off, but he came in and he was excellent. Beast Titan, damn, the bookies had that 3-0 spot on today. They did 100%. It was one of the I think it was one of the specials that was out there that people could have jumped on, and more people definitely should have done. Omar says, we grew into the game after a shaky start. Owen says, El Neni over Xavi. Clayton Chase says, Bellerin getting back to his best. He was excellent too. Carl Halberg says, El Neni gets a 10 out of 10 for me too. Simple but flawless. Laurie Nick says, double A effect. Duracell FC. Come on, you Gunners. Joseph Maseko says, first half almost put me to sleep. We weren't using the ball. We just retained it. The second half, we actually attempted to use it in the second. I'm not so sure. I think that when you look at what happened in the first half, there was so much flair from the likes of Willian playing those balls down the right-hand side. Bellerin was excellent with him on that side too. The combination of those two compared to the combination of Bellerin and Pepe was definitely better in that sense. So more than happy to see Willian start on that side. So let's go through and have a look at the obvious lineup before the game. Leno starting in goal. We then went with the back three of Holding, Gabriel and Tierney. Bellerin and Maitland-Niles playing on both wings, or Mainsley, I should say. We're on the Gooner Talk now. We're calling the man Mainsley. Centre midfielders, Xhaka and El Neni in the middle. El Neni was a weird pick. We'll come back to that in a second. And then the front three of Aubameyang, Willian and Lacazette leading the line. So if we go from back to front, I mean, Leno was the obvious choice. He was asked before the game about it, Arteta, and Martinez is in a special situation, as our Spanish manager called it. It looks more and more likely that he's going to be off. But Leno had a very decent game. Everything that came at him, he dealt with well. He wasn't really tested massively, let's be honest. And most of the shots that he did have were straight at him, but he collected them well, commanded his backline well, and was very happy in that sense. Moving into the backline, Holding, Gabriel and Tierney. Gabriel, to start off with, great debut goal. Amazing to see that happen on. It just builds that confidence. And I think you saw in the first 10 minutes that there was a shaky start. He's someone that's not played since March in terms of a competitive fixture. And definitely there were some slight problems, I think, just eking around. There was a bit of the miscommunication between him and Leno right at the start. There's a couple of passes that just weren't quite on point. But he grew into the game. He headed everything away. In terms of his physicality, he was definitely up there as now probably one of the most physical defenders in the league. He's just towering above all of those other players, winning headers all day long, and obviously won the key header that got us our second goal in the game as well. Rob Holding had a really solid game at right centre-back, couldn't really put him to floor. Passing was solid. He didn't do anything amazing in terms of passing, but there was something amazing from good old Holdinho into the other half, doing a couple of keepy-uppies. He was absolutely brilliant doing that. And then you got Kieran Tierney, who was just solid. I loved the way he even had to go at Aubameyang at one point when he was sort of left high and dry at the back by the Gabonese winger. And the fact that he's taking that initiative to have a go at our own captain and tell him to get in line in that sense is always going to be a positive thing. Absolutely love that about the Scottish international. So in terms of our backline, what were you guys thinking? Yes, Vamp says missing Martinez, just felt a tad bit better with him. I'm not sure, mate, if you can miss him too much after that performance. Greg says, what a great debut from Gabriel after that initial communication glitch. Matt Gray says, so happy for Gabriel. Great performance and a goal. Going to give him so much confidence. Richie Hartnett says, very happy for Gabriel. Looked great after the shaker start and was very solid. Richie Hartnett also follows that up by saying, holding with his keepy-uppies to win the corner to score our second. And it was influential. It was definitely influential. Kamal says, Gabriel won everything in the air today. And those crosses, and when we come up against Liverpool in that really important game, crossing was one of those things that when we were at Anfield anyway, really kind of cost us. And to know that we've got someone in Gabriel and David Luiz as well when he comes back, that they can both do that really, really well and sort of nullify any real danger from those crosses that we might have had previously. Iron Cub says, no wonder Gabriel's hairline is gone. The guy is winning like 30 headers a game. Matt Gray says, don't want to focus on it. But what was that Eddie and Danny arguing about? We'll talk about that in a bit. Let's look ahead then to the wing-backs. Bellerin on that right-hand side. I mean, we've been saying for weeks that, I've been saying admittedly that I'd be more than open to see him move on and for Mainsley to take that right-back slot, but he was excellent. Bellerin was absolutely brilliant. His passing was great. His running was great. The way he linked up with Willian was fantastic. And speaking of the Brazilian, he was unreal. 3 assists, 2.5 if you want to. The first one is obviously a deflection from his cross. I don't really think you can call that an out-and-out assist. I think he'll probably get granted 2, let alone the 3. But he was brilliant today. Creatively, massively influential in terms of sort of that right-hand side. Coming across the pitch, the pass over for Aubameyang's first goal and our third was just perfect. And it was kind of mirrored by that Saka pass to Aubameyang in the Community Shield. And Aubameyang seems to find that space on the left-hand side really excellently and leads us into sort of a position where he's able to cut in from that side and score. And so many people have wanted to see Aubameyang playing in the middle, but I just don't see that same effectiveness if he's played through the middle, that he can then utilise the ability to cut inside and finesse those shots into the right-hand side of the goal. The goals that he scored, his last 3 goals, I think, for the Arsenal in terms of competitive games was today's, where he did the same thing. The Community Shield, again, with a very similar strike. And the one against Man City against Chelsea, in the final, where he ran from, was it Chelsea? Yeah, well, I suppose it was on the left-hand side, but before that, Manchester City, where he was also played through by Tierney to then just finesse underneath Ederson. So he really does seem to thrive there. You also probably saw the video of him scoring against Villa in pre-season. And again, it was another clinical, finessed finish into that right-hand side of the goal that was just perfect. I haven't even talked about Willian's free kick. That kind of went under the radar from the first half. He is going to be a threat. We've got him and Pepe now that have the opportunity, right footer and left footer. If they're both on the pitch at the same time, which I think is something we might see. Willian has played in a central sort of number 10 role for Arteta in pre-season, and the long-term aim of seeing him in behind the either Nketiah or Lacazette with Pepe on the right, Willian in the middle, and Aubameyang on the left. Having 2 right and left footer players into the position where they can both be unpredictable with their free kicks is going to be really kind of that secret niche weapon that we have in our arsenal, pun intended. So yeah, it was absolutely brilliant to see him flourish today. In terms of the centre midfielders, we kind of touched on it, El Neni, with some of the guys you were saying at the start. I was worried a little bit. The video I put out on Twitter, if you're not following us, please do, at the Good Talk TV. There'll be little tiny preview clips of Raw Reaction preview shows just before the game goes live. And if you want to see those, make sure you follow us over on Twitter. But yeah, I said in the video that I was fine with it, but I was kind of surprised that Danny didn't start. I thought that when he came on, he was excellent. But El Neni, he just did that job, didn't he? I said in the actual preview video, I kind of felt that what you're seeing from El Neni is if we manage to somehow, fingers crossed, get in Thomas Partey, that's the position that he's going to be playing. And the difference is what you saw with El Neni is that he receives the ball, plays it on. What we'll get from a Partey is that he'll receive the ball and drive up the pitch. And that is just sort of that added thing that El Neni can't really do. It's not really in his repertoire of skills. But that doesn't discredit for what he did today. El Neni was really, really fantastic. His passing was solid. His positioning was really good. His discipline was really good. Something that he had under Unai Emery and previously Wenger when we signed him was that he kind of drifted. He got into that Torreira habit of just sort of drifting further up the pitch. He was really well disciplined today, and him and Xhaka had a really great partnership. Xhaka, when he went down holding I think it was his left boot or right boot, one of them, I was really concerned because he, again, was integral to our play. The play of passing it out to the wide positions, the way he drops back into the back line to provide an extra option so that our defence don't need to panic and not think that they've got options. He's always making himself available, and that was really perfect from the Swiss midfielder. Aubameyang, we kind of touched on it already. Great goal. He was very quiet in the first half, but you just can't stop this guy from scoring. It's imperative that we get him signed up to a new deal. I'm pretty sure we can all say that it's done. It's just waiting for an announcement, which could come in the next couple of days or so. But we've been saying that for the last few weeks. It'll be a great day when he signs. And then Lacazette, great to see him score. Great to see him get that goal at the beginning of the game to sort of lift that confidence up that he can now push forward. In terms of player ratings, that's going to be your second show of the day. Every single game day, what you will get from us is a raw reaction straight after the game. And then a little bit later on, we're turning the tactical breakdown show, which of course is rife during the transfer season. But in terms of how it serves during the season, I thought it might be cool to do a fun twist of doing a player rating show on the tactical breakdown show side of things. So that'll be out a little bit later today, where we'll go through each of the individual players in a tactical way and give them their player rating. Let's jump back into the live chat. Chris P, thank you for the donation, mate. Those saying that playing Alba down the middle, I say don't try and fix something that ain't broke. How many man of the matches were there today? Hope Xhaka is okay. I mean, Xhaka played on, didn't he? He might have a knock which rules him out of the next game, but I don't think it's anything serious. Ian R says, great team performance. I'm so glad we have Ceballos back for another season. He is quality. I mean, the nutmeg and then the back heel right at the end of the game. Chef's kiss. Absolutely fantastic. Wilson, what a great start to the season for Arsenal. Arsenal who says, I don't want Albert to play through the middle. He plays far better when he's on the left-hand side, in my opinion. Tom says, knowing Arsenal, they'll announce Aubameyang signing in March. Charlie and Guy, nice to have you back in the chat, mate. It's been a while. Says, El Neni was everywhere. Arteta getting more out of these players. See what happens when Arteta gets some new signings. Back the manager and give the man his Partey. And we can't get too out of control here. I think that's the important thing from today. Yes, we've won our first game of the season. Yes, it's been an absolute blitz of a game where we've won 3-0 and it seemed very simple, but we need to go into the next game with the same discipline. One of the big things of Arsenal that we've struggled with is temperament and thinking about the games that we then go on to then drop points in stupidly because the confidence is high, the arrogance is there. I'm hoping that Arteta's got the malice and the nous about him to turn to the players and be like, this means nothing. You play from as if you've got no points in the season. You're desperate for them because we need to move forward and claim those points as quickly as feasibly possible and as consistently as possible. If we can build up a run, build up that confidence, get the new players playing as much as possible, the fact that Gabriel and Willian have hit the ground running is a massive plus for us, that we can go into bigger games in the Liverpool game, in the Man United games, in the Man City games with these new signings that have come in and integrated very quickly is such a huge plus. Going into those games if those players hadn't kind of transitioned yet, we've still got Saliba to come in as well. The reasons why he was left out was apparently tactical in terms of sort of phasing him in. And then there are other issues around the squad. We haven't really touched on the fact that Ozil and Guendouzi were both, again, not in the team, even though they've been training, even though Ozil's been playing in pre-season, nowhere near that first team yet. What that means, I don't know. I'm kind of leaving myself open to interpretation until the transfer window is closed. If they're both still here after the transfer window is closed, it doesn't really make any sense not to play them because especially Ozil with his year running down, I guess you were trying to force him out. But you're just going to use them. If you're going to use them if you can, but they're going to be used in sort of the second-tier competitions. They're going to be nowhere near this first team. Absolutely nowhere near this first team. But the depth that we've got, and if they're in the team, there's no point just wasting them in terms of just letting players play continuously and get fatigued. In those second-tier competitions like the FA Cup, like the Europa League, in the group stages, that is, those players should be used to give those first-team players that are playing in the Premier League week in, week out an opportunity for rest. And that's all I would say on that. In terms of the first team, in terms of Premier League, don't see them getting really anywhere near that this season, whether they stay or whether they go. Avon Teddington says, it was a much better start that we have had in some time, but it also may have had a little to do with Fulham not being great. That's sort of the factor that we've not touched upon today. Fulham didn't really show too much. I thought towards the end of the first half, they kind of lit up a bit. They were worrying me slightly. I thought they might get back into the game, but I think there's also a definitely element of the game where you have to turn around and say that Arsenal nullified their threat. They defended, really, really well, and the blocking and the positional awareness of the back line was really solid too. So whilst, yes, I could definitely admit that Fulham weren't the best and they didn't really test us today, when there were little threats from the West London team, it was a case that I just think that when you've got a team like Fulham, you've still got a threat there. We've dropped points against big teams. We've dropped points against small teams. And when you think about what Fulham are, they're a team that have come up from the Championship. They beat a Brentford side in the playoff final that were very exciting, and they've got threats about them. And they didn't use their new signings really today because they've just integrated. And Mitrovic started from the bench, but it's still a side that you have to get past. It's still a team that Arsenal have dropped points against in terms of the type of team, not specifically Fulham, but in terms of that type of team. We have dropped points. So I feel that we defensively still did extremely well. There'll be a stronger test next week, I am sure, but I'm looking forward to watching the rest of the games today as well. As I said, there will be a player rating show a little bit later this evening. That is going to be the norm for the season. You'll get a raw reaction show straight after the game, and you'll get a tactical breakdown show looking at the player ratings, looking at the players. It might be with a guest, it might be just me. We're going to have to wait and see how this sort of changes and tweaks. So we'll see about that. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, as it always is, people. If you could drop a like on the video to represent your happiness of today's win, I would really appreciate that. If you could go and check out the website and all the articles that are going on over there as well, I'd appreciate it too. And if you'd like to join up with us and become a member and help support the channel, which as we enter the coming weeks and months is going to be imperative to the channel really, and keeping it afloat and keeping it going. So thank you ever so much for the help so far, and thank you members for helping us as always. I'll see you a little bit later on today to go through our player ratings, but it's been a pleasure to speak to you as it always is. Keep it real, keep it Arsenal, and as always, up the Arsenal.